So now we're going to solve equations that involve the type of trinomial that we just saw in the last video. So when we're solving equations that look like x squared plus bx plus c equals 0, sometimes our first step is going to be, if necessary, to rearrange the equation to equal 0. Sometimes we might have to rearrange the equation to equal 0. We'll see if we need to for some we might not need to. Our next step, we're going to factor. We're going to factor like we either just learned. Sometimes we might still need to find a greatest common factor. Who knows? Our step 3, we're going to set each factor equal to 0. Why? Because we know about the product rule from our other equations that involved factoring. We know that if a product equals 0, then one of the factors must equal 0. And after that, we're going to solve for the variable. We're going to solve for the variable. Again, we may have multiple answers, and that's okay. So if we look at x squared plus 3x minus 18 equals 0, x squared plus 3x minus 18 equals 0, we need to find what multiplies to negative 18 that adds to 3. Well, what multiplies to negative 18? We could have negative 2 times 9, but that adds to 7. If we have negative 3 times 6, oh, that adds to 3. So we're going to have x plus 6 and x minus 3. X plus 6 and x minus 3 equals 0. Then when we set each of these equal to 0, we're going to say x plus 6 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0, and we're going to solve. So we'll subtract 6, get that x equals negative 6, and then we'll add 3, and x equals 3. So here we have x equals negative 6, x equals 3, both valid solutions to this equation. Now, we have y squared minus 8y equals negative 15. So remember our first step. If necessary, we need to rearrange the equation to equal 0. This doesn't equal 0, so we need to do just that. I'm going to add 15 to both sides and get y squared minus 8y equals negative 15. Sorry, that's just what we said. I was not paying attention. Y squared minus 8y plus 15 equals 0. There we go. Now we need to see what multiplies to 15 and adds to negative 8. Remember, if we multiply to a positive but add to a negative, we're going to have two negative factors. So let's see, some negative factors of 15, negative 1 times negative 15, but that adds to negative 16. But if we have negative 3 times negative 5, negative 8. So we'll have y minus 3, y minus 5 equals 0. So y minus 3 equals 0, y minus 5 equals 0. So y equals 3, y equals 5. So when y squared minus 8y equals negative 15, y equals both 3 and 5. And if you doubt it, plug it in to check. And that is okay to do. So, for our practice, we are on page 1186, and we are looking at questions 20 through 29. So number 20, starting off with number 20 on page 1186. We have x squared minus 7x plus 12 equals 0. So we need to find what multiplies to 12 and adds to negative 7. Remember, that's going to be two negative numbers, negative 2 and negative 6. No, that's negative 8. But negative 3 and negative 4, that's our negative 7. So we have the group x minus 3 times the group x minus 4 equals 0. So then, because of our multiplicative property rule, we can say that x minus 3 equals 0 and x minus 4 equals 0, because since these both multiply to equal 0, at least one of them has to be 0. So we add 3, so we get that x equals 3. Add 4, we see that x equals 4. And there we have it. Now, some of you are going to ask, how much of this work do we need to show? And for some of our friends who don't like to listen to videos, they're going to miss out, and I'm not going to tell them in class. So, I need to see that you factor it and it's equal to 0. I need to see that you set each factor equal to 0. And I need to see your solution. So, we need to see that you factored it. We need to see that you have set each factor equal to 0. And I need to see your solution. I want to see all 3 of those. Please don't skip anything. You know how I feel about that.